Hey y'all, it's Maxine, your favorite wine specialist, guiding you on your journey through fine wine. And today I want to do a review and a discussion, so let's hop right into it. This Saturday, I will be attending the Veuve Clicquot Polo Classic. This will be my first time attending this event and my first time attending a polo match, so I'm really excited about it. So this sparked me to have a discussion with you all about non-vintage and vintage champagne. So let's get into what's in my glass. So for this discussion, I chose the 2008 Veuve Clicquot. This is their vintage champagne. So let's get into the difference between non-vintage and vintage champagne. A non-vintage champagne is a champagne that is made with multiple vintages. And the reason why the winemaker chooses to create this is this gives them a harmonious style. So as a consumer, you know what you're going to get. So for Veuve Clicquot, their yellow label is your non-vintage champagne. You know what you're going to pick up each and every time, and this is pleasing to the consumer. For vintage champagne, all of the grapes in that bottle were harvested in the 2008 year. So whatever that year is, those grapes was harvested in that year. So with that, you're going to get a different tasting experience. Not extremely drastic, but you'll be able to see how that vintage performs. And within the Champagne region, the conditions aren't always favorable to declare a vintage. So when a reputable champagne house chooses to declare a vintage, it really was a great growing season. Everything fell in line that they wanted to declare a vintage. So that's really exciting. Another comparison between vintage and non-vintage champagne is the price. Vintage champagnes, because they don't have that many and they don't produce one each year, they're going to be a little higher. So I would definitely reserve your vintage champagnes for more celebratory occasions. What would I be what would I be eating with my vintage champagne? I would choose, well, in this one in particular, I would go with shellfish, maybe a smoked salmon, scallops, whatever that particular style of wine is. But overall, those are really good pairings for champagne. Now, let's get into tasting it, the favorite part. Now, we're going to smell it first. Definitely getting some toasty notes on the nose. Let's taste it, my favorite part. This drinks well. I haven't had vintage Veuve Clicquot in a while, but I really enjoyed this. So the notes that I was getting from this wine, I definitely was getting some stone fruit. And fruits that fall under the stone fruit category are peaches, nectarines, apricots, just to name a few. I picked up the toastiness that I got on the nose. And I'm also getting a little ripe citrus notes from this one, slightly maybe like a candy citrus, but very ripe citrus notes like an orange or a lemon. I really enjoyed this one. I'm definitely going to revisit the vintage Veuve Clicquot more regularly. Another thing with your vintage champagnes is storage. You want to store your vintage champagnes and all your champagnes, but in particular your vintage champagnes. You want to store them if you have a cellar, a wine cooler. You want to put it in a very cool place, because the cool thing about a vintage champagne is they are great for aging. So you can age your champagne. So if you want to age it, it needs to be in a very cool, dark climate where it's not being bothered, not many vibrations, so that wine can age properly as you would like for it to. And with aging champagne, I would definitely suggest for you to go with that Champagne House recommendation for that particular vintage on how long they would suggest to cellar your champagne. Look forward to a recap of the Veuve Clicquot Polo Classic. Until then, drink good, live well.